but we'll go ahead and get started. So thanks everyone for joining. I'm going to hand it off to Scott to kick things off. Thanks again for being here.
Thanks, Rich. I want to welcome you guys all here. For you who don't know me, my name is Scott Warren. I'm the CEO of Brand Muscle. I've met most of you, I think, from the last one, but I'm glad we have some new faces. Rich wanted me to share some pictures of last year's CAB, the attendees. This was done in Chicago. It was our first annual, which was nice. And we hope to do it in the future a little bit more. We wish we could do it in person. But obviously we can't. So we really do appreciate you guys coming and spending 90 minutes with us. Rich wanted me to do some propaganda slides on Brand Muscle, but I'm not going to do that because that's not my style. I'm going to give you some ideas of why we want to have this and why this is important to me. For you guys, I hope we can say something in the next 90 minutes that adds some value, that it's just not a waste of your time, that you actually have learned something or heard something or had a conversation with someone that actually added some value. So from my perspective, I hope you guys get that takeaway. But from a selfish reason, I really don't want this to be I don't want you to think of this as a sales call, because for me, it's not. As a direct result of this CAB last year and some comments from some of you, we've made some significant financial investments. Last year, we did a complete restructure of the organization, all 500 employees, as a direct comment from one of our customers, just how hard it was to do business with us. So we've restructured the whole company. So that's a lot of money for me, time and investment and heartache internal, but we did it because we wanted to make sure we were better aligned with you guys. Another comment last year at the CAB was about data and analytics. So we've actually pulled resources, hired people, and created products. And James and Sarah will go through that with you. And then there was a couple comments from our alcohol beverage distributors and suppliers about investments in their business. And Rich is going to talk to you about what we've done for them. So for me, I'm not looking for you guys to give me some amazing idea. I'm just looking for that one or two nuggets that'll help me improve the business. And those investments for me are important because they require resources. I need to hire people. I need to restructure. I need to add a company. It may be an acquisition. It could be a total new product. But I use this as a place where I figure out what money should go where for the next year. So for me, I'm just going to listen intently to your feedback on what you see in the industry, what issues you're having with Brand Muscle, and what I can do to better. Because it may be as significant as a reorg, or it may be as significant as an acquisition, or it could be as significant as just hiring three or four more people in a different area. So for me, I'm hoping to take away something that's going to make Brand Muscle better in the future. So with that, I'll turn it over to the team, and I'll just be listening. And if you guys have any comments, let me know.
Great. Thanks, Scott. So the agenda that we put together, to Scott's point, it really is about giving you guys an update on what we've done since a year ago after we kind of heard your feedback and digested it. And really the focus of the session is going to be on this roundtable discussion that Mike and Sarah are going to lead, to hopefully get your feedback, what you guys have been experiencing this year, where we might be able to help you, ideas you may have that we should consider investing in. We have Phil Rather from Facebook, who was here last year. He's joining us again to give us kind of an update from his perspective of what Facebook is seeing, and then we'll do a wrap up. We are recording this for internal purposes, but we'll also share it on a LinkedIn group. So one of the other things is, to Scott's point, we want to continuously hear feedback from you guys, not just once a year, but on an ongoing basis. And so from that perspective, we decided to create a private LinkedIn group where we invite you guys to join, and we can continue to share ideas and things like that. So without further ado, I'll just do quick introductions of people on the call. I know some people are still coming in. And of course, you'll have access to these slides. So one of the things we wanted this to be is a resource for you guys. So underneath everybody's little profile picture here, we've got a few acronyms that correspond to which products and services the company is using from Brand Muscle, right? So brand management is BM, channel fund management is CFM. If you're a print or fulfillment customer, that's PNF, And if you're a spot menus customer, which is a new solution from us, that's SM. So I'll go through the names and hopefully I'll get everyone's name pronounced correctly. Kurt Winter, Regional VP Marketing and Program Management from Allstate. Danny Ehrman, AVP Agency Marketing from Nationwide. Robert Oliveras, SVP of Marketing from RNDC Youngs. Robert, thanks for returning this year. Kevin Kranzler, Chief Operating Officer from Bresco and Barton, also returning. Wendy Wojel, VP Retirement Strategic Marketing from Prudential. Thanks and welcome back again, Wendy. Lauren S. Owens, VP of Marketing and Communications and Public Affairs from Bobcat. Mark Weimer, Senior Vice President from HughesNet. Gregory Heger, Director Boost Perks and Field Marketing from Boost Mobile. Kyle Urich, Vice President Trade Marketing from Moet Hennessy USA. Ross Goldstein, Vice President of Marketing from Northwestern Mutual. Dave Pizzolato, Director of Local Marketing from Ace Hardware. Wayne Thompson, VP of Marketing and Product Management from Echo. And the last slide, but not least, Michael Sutter, Executive Director Home Lending from Chase. Dave Kluka, Senior Director of Marketing, Turf and Consumer Products from Briggs & Stratton. And we have some other folks who are joining us as new customers. Chloe Friedman, Marketing and Communications Manager from Psychiatric Medical Care. Marcia Mirando, Director of Marketing from Frankenmuth Insurance. Hannah Conheim, VP of On-Premise from Allied Beverage. And we're welcoming back Philip Rather, Director of Local from the Global Business Group at Facebook. So thanks again, everyone, for joining. Really appreciate it. You guys are an impressive bunch on your own, right? But together, collectively, you represent $260 billion. Your companies represent $260 billion of through channel revenue. So pretty impressive stat there. And coincidentally, you also happen to have, for those of you who are live on Brand Muscle, 261,000 active users. So these are not just users as at your corporate location, but channel partners that we're serving on our platform. So pretty engaged audience. And for those of you who are customers, you have been with Brand Muscle for an average of 7 years. So really happy to be continuing to service you guys. And for the new customers who are joining, we hope to work with you for many years to come. Last thing I'll just mention is we have some folks from Brand Muscle on the call. Not our entire executive team, but pretty good representation. We have Paula Karen, our Chief Global Services Officer, myself, Rich Mendes, Chief Strategy Officer. We have Sarah Kachera, our SVP of Channel Marketing Strategy, Scott Warren, who you just met, our CEO, Gary Ortman, EVP of Operations, Mike Marchetti, our Chief Customer Officer, James Morse, our VP of Product Management, and last but not least, Elizabeth Journell, our EVP of Sales. So you've got our attention, and we really appreciate it. Again, I did ask marketing for an updated version of this slide with more recent pictures that might match, the little less hair and other things that we might have. And they struggled a little bit, but they sent me a slide last night, and I dropped it in. So there you go. That's what we look like today. All right. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to James and Sarah, who are going to cover 3 different areas. We heard a lot of feedback from you guys in the last customer advisory board, and we kind of summarize that into 3 areas here: analytics, collaboration, and improving the way we do business with you and your channel partners, and innovation, areas where we could make further investments. So analytics, this is obviously a big area of need across many different companies. I'm sure this is not something new that you guys have heard about. For us, it means 2 areas, right? So one is, for a lot of you, we do a lot of channel fund management. So we take a portion of your funds and we allocate it to different channel partners, right? And you want to make sure that they're spending it effectively and that the programs are working. So being able to report on those things is very important. The other area that's important is we want to be able to leverage the information that we're getting on how your channel partners are spending those funds and what's effective, and align those actions as much as possible with your own national marketing plans and strategy, right? So what we've done from that perspective, first of all, is in terms of understanding, whether the channel marketing programs are working, we offer every year an annual survey that we do ourselves. So it's primary research called the State of Local Marketing. And it is, at least based on our research, the most comprehensive report on this particular space. And because we've been doing it now for many years, we have a lot of longitudinal data that gives you access to trends across the industry in terms of research and data on how local marketing partners or local channel partners are doing marketing and using their funds. And we also go deep into specific industries, and we get benchmarks that are available across industry and customer, so you can compare across categories. And I would encourage you to take advantage of this program if you're not. As customers of Brand Muscle, you guys all have access both to participate in this program, as well as get, at no additional cost from us, an assessment of where your company stands with respect to other peers in the industry. So we wanted to share a little bit of preliminary information in terms of the data that we got back from 2020. I'm just going to pause here and see, do we have Sarah back on yet? Not yet. Okay, so I'm going to continue. Sorry, Sarah, to steal your thunder. So one of the areas that we take a look at is there's a variety of different marketing tactics, right, that you can take across traditional media, social media, digital media, which of course is emerging as the lion's share of that business, and in-person events. And we ask respondents to rank those tactics across two dimensions. One is the perceived effectiveness. So how effective do they believe that particular marketing tactic is? And then how much usage they put in. So how much of that particular marketing tactic are they allocating funds to? And we'll of course overlay the actual data that we have on top of this. But what's very interesting is if you look at the left-hand side here, you will see that some of these digital tactics like SEO, online display, paid search, digital video, audio, they're perceived to be very highly effective by the channel partners, but they're not utilized that much, right? And so these are areas where we believe we have an opportunity to help the channel partners leverage more of the marketing funds that you are giving them to take advantage of these tactics and see better results. I got a text message here. Do we have Sarah back? Sarah, can you holler if you're with us?
She's not back on.
No worries. All right. So the next question, of course, is yes, if we're doing these tactics, does it actually have an impact, right? What is the impact of channel marketing? And this is where, we're pretty excited about some of the results. So one of the things we asked this year is we asked, what percentage of marketing or what percentage of your revenue, each channel partner's revenue, do you spend on marketing? And it's very interesting. About 50% spend less than 1% of their revenue on marketing. And on average, they experienced about 3.5% revenue growth. This is self-reported, right? So about 3.5% revenue growth for less than a percentage of marketing. Those who spend 1% or more, typically between 1% to 2% on average, and this is the other half, they reported a 4.5 or 4.6% growth, which is 30% higher than those who spent less than a percentage of marketing on their revenue, of their revenue on marketing. So a pretty significant delta between how much revenue growth you achieve based on an incremental amount of additional marketing spend. The other interesting piece of data that we also have from last year is that most of the channel partners would be considered, 90% of them would be considered low maturity marketing, and about only 10% would be considered higher maturity. And if you look at the difference in growth between the 90% of the folks who are less mature versus the 10% that are high maturity, there's about a 2 times more revenue growth rate in the most mature audience. So pretty significant difference, right, in terms of both how much you invest in marketing and how mature you are. And our goal as a company is always to help your channel partners get more effective use of their spend. And if they're getting more effective use, they'll see the results and then invest more, and ensure that their marketing maturity is consistently moving up the curve, so they're experiencing more growth rate. So pretty exciting. We'll be, of course, sharing more of this data with you guys as those reports get finalized or towards the end of the year. And again, we'll give you more information on how you can participate in this survey and be able to get more kind of tailored results presented back to you or other folks in your team. Okay. So I'm going to hand it over to James now to talk a little bit about what we're doing in terms of embedding analytics into our products.
Yeah, so as we incorporate the data that Rich mentioned into the overall strategy, the question naturally arises with how do we effectively align your channel partners to execute on that strategy? So we need to provide the channel partners with really a clear direction rather than your typical charts and graphs. So with Channel Partner Scorecard, we've enabled the channel partner to really understand how they're performing versus their peers. And we've done that with a simple grade, A, B, C, etc. And we all know what that means, right? If I have a B, how do I get to an A? If I have an A, how do I keep an A? So really coupling that grade with clear recommendations provides the channel partner with insight into how they can improve their score, and in doing so, improve that marketing maturity that Rich just mentioned. It also allows us to course correct in the moment. And there's really nothing worse than looking back annually or quarterly and thinking, shoulda, coulda, woulda. So how do we provide those ongoing recommendations to enable that course correction based on market or industry changes in the moment? And then really to drive the adoption and engagement, we've implemented gamification to show clear next steps, reward levels that provide greater alignment than with your corporate goals. And then finally here, we close the marketing to sales loop by showing the channel partner how certain tactics or campaigns that they've engaged with can lead to greater sales versus those that may keep their sales at more of a plateau. So again, as Scott mentioned, taking the technology and allowing it to be easier for the channel partners, but ultimately, making sure that it aligns with your corporate strategy overall.
And James, this product is currently being implemented for a couple of customers, and I guess later this year it's going to be generally available. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So we're working with a couple of clients right now just to get feedback, see that engagement, see if there's any tweaks that we need to make it. But overall, the feedback's been great.
Okay. Thanks, James.
So the next big theme from last year was collaboration. And overall, collaboration should enable all of us to work together to achieve all of these defined goals that we're alluding to, right? But when we think about collaboration, we're really working to improve how you work with your channel partners, but also considering how we improve the way that we work with you to achieve that goal. And so two of the big pieces of feedback that we got last year and across this for reducing friction, you can go to the next one, Rich, is the feedback was we look at channel marketing as a continuous process that can ideally be served from one destination or hub. And this comes up quite a bit, that one-stop shop that we need to have. And overall, we look to engage with Brand Muscle in a more seamless or less siloed way across the various services that Brand Muscle provides. So overall, we recognize that our clients work with other vendors and partners, and we've worked and are continue to work on increasing the number of integrations that we have with those partners that we can plug into the platforms to really become that hub and one-stop shop for all the channel partners. So essentially think about it as no more logging into multiple sites or depending on the user to know where to go for what, really utilizing integrations and SSOs to make that a seamless experience. So good examples of those partnerships that we've sought out. The first one's Widen, who provides an integration between assets housed within their digital asset management solution and ultimately the Brand Muscle templates to ensure the single source of truth, a one-stop shop. WorkStride, who complements really our existing co-op and NDF programs with channel incentives, spiffs, and rebates. ChargeBee, who provides easy subscription services for, think about it as more of the do-it-for-me media programs that channel partners can enroll in, which allows for seamless changes and renewals with those. And then Reputation.com, who handles reputation management, listing management, and organic social for the local channel partners. And overall, these partnerships were very carefully selected based off feedback that we heard from customers to remove friction between the platforms. And of course, really, if you feel we're missing anyone or you have partners you'd like to see within this ecosystem, just let us know in the CAB survey. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Sarah, if she's back.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can.
Perfect. Of course, I've been testing this nonstop, and at the last minute it crashes. So I apologize. As James was saying, we've really been looking at ways to better collaborate with our clients and customers. And when we looked at ourselves internally, we honestly saw that there were lots of opportunities for us to improve how we work with our clients and customers. And like we said earlier, we're celebrating our 20th anniversary, and over our years, we've grown our product offerings through acquisitions. And so that traditionally meant that we had, product experts on each of those products and platforms. But when we had clients that went across platforms, it wasn't always perfect how we worked together, and there was sometimes some friction between those products and platforms. So over the past year, we've really restructured the entire organization to ensure client advocacy across all of our platforms. Our explicit goals are really to be easier to work with, to create efficiencies through centralizing delivery functions, and then to create those cross-platform client support teams. And you, as our clients, are at the center of this ecosystem. And you're supported by our account strategy team that allows, that owns that overall relationship in conjunction with our client partnership team that works to identify opportunities for growth. And then our client success teams have been trained across all of our platforms to provide the day-to-day support you require. And then as we dive deeper into it, we decided to develop this whole concept of the centers of excellence to really explicitly improve delivery. And each center is focused on specific areas across our platforms and clients to create really efficiency, to improve productivity, and to ensure redundancy. So we centralize these functions to allow us to standardize processes and really ensure consistent quality in our delivery, no matter how you engage with us. So our goal is really to become a valued partner, and we hope you're seeing the benefits of these changes. And James, I'm going to throw it back to you to show us, tell us a little bit how we're tackling innovation right now.
Yeah, so with innovation, obviously the world's changing rapidly around us, and COVID has done nothing but accelerate that. So the question really becomes, how can we keep pushing the envelope and develop new solutions to help the channel partners? So the feedback really evolved to meet our challenges with the overarching one. We need vendors who can constantly evaluate the environment, proactively identify opportunities to improve channel programs, and then we need a partner who can be nimble and pivot quickly when unexpected challenges arise. So as Sarah talked about with breaking down the silos across the organization, we've wanted to ensure that we're actively addressing all of the needs across product development as well, and making sure that they have the focus point. So in addition to a substantial engineering team, which you can think of there on the right-hand side of the slide, the product delivery team, who really has handled major enhancements, any new products, maintenance as well, we've created the left-hand side, which is the new Brand Muscle Labs organization. And really, this team was formed to work with forward-thinking customers and trend spot emerging technologies to really apply to our solutions and ultimately incubate new innovations across the board. And good examples of that, of course, are the Channel Partner Scorecard, which we touched on earlier, and then Recommendation Engine, which actually leads into the next slide. And so, as we've kind of touched on, we collect quite a bit of data, but how do we utilize the data to enhance the channel partner's experience? And one unique way is by utilizing Recommendation Engine to really drive marketing execution recommendations. So in this example, the channel partner selects between driving awareness and driving conversions. And then we utilize machine learning on the back end to combine those inputs with all of our existing data sets to provide a clear recommendation on what makes the most sense for the channel partner at that time. And then another example overall, you can see here where they end up seeing the selection and the option. There might be multiple packages, but we're giving them the recommendation on this is the one that makes sense for you. And then another example is the Channel Partner Scorecard, which obviously we touched on, where we provide those ongoing recommendations to improve the grades, the B to an A, the C to a B, whatever it may be. And the overall goal for Recommendation Engine and Scorecard is to help clients educate the channel partners on what's working well and how to effectively spend channel funds, which is a constant feedback of challenges and pain points existing today. So we want to make this easier for the channel partner who doesn't have a lot of time for these things to easily jump in and be able to execute the right types of marketing. And with that, I'll pass it back over to Rich.
Thanks, James. So before I move off this, I just want to kind of highlight a couple of themes here. The ability for us to look at data and make recommendations for your channel partners through solutions like the Channel Partner Scorecard is predicated on us being fortunate enough to have from you guys vast sums of data around those 261,000 users on the platform, what they're doing, how they're spending their money, where they're getting effective results. So one of the big areas of investment that we started this year and will continue doubling down on next year is how to take that data and gain insights from it that make the solution more valuable to you guys. We do have a lot of our alcohol and beverage customers on the phone as well, and one of the things that we did not anticipate, of course, was what happened with COVID. And for those of you who don't know, the alcohol, obviously we've all been impacted by this pandemic, but the hospitality sector, and in particular the restaurants and bars, have been pretty significantly impacted. Well over $100 billion of impact to the overall hospitality sector, about a third of that in alcohol and beverage, 50% lower on-premise alcohol spend and consumption. So on-premise means when you go to a restaurant and you're consuming the alcohol on premise. And 57% of consumers, many of us, I'm sure, in that boat, haven't really returned in full force to restaurants because of anxiety or safety as the main reason. And so the other thing you may not know if you're not in this industry is that cocktail menu that you see in a bar when you sit down is a promotional item that's where the brands on that particular menu are negotiated between the restaurants, the distributors, and the suppliers. And it's subsidized in many cases by the distributors and the suppliers. So that key promotional item that helps the consumer translate that brand awareness at the national level down to a transaction when they're in a bar is something that's no longer being used. And so, as Brand Muscle is one of the largest producers in the country of those menu books and menu items. So we sat back and thought, okay, how can we help our customers in this area? And an obvious one is disposable menus, which we're producing. Another was digital menus using QR code technology, and that's certainly not something new. There's if you Google QR code or digital menus, you'll find literally hundreds of solutions in Google. However, none of those solutions support the mechanisms that we've built over the last couple of decades with distributors and suppliers to have promotional menus and enable chargebacks and things like that, so that the alcohol and beverage brands can have a way to promote their items to customers at the point of sale. So what we decided to do was see if we can quickly take the Brand Muscle Labs team that James mentioned and develop a solution that works just like these other solutions do, but incorporates distributors and suppliers into the ecosystem. So we launched a product called Spot Menus, and if you're interested, you can bring up your mobile device, your smartphone, and bring up the camera. And if you hold it up to your screen to scan that QR code, you'll see how it works. But basically, this allows a consumer to be able to scan these signs very easily, bring up the menu instantly. There's no sign in or registration or privacy concerns. And it gives a full-featured menu management solution to the restaurants so that they can make changes as needed if their supply chains have been disrupted to the menu items. They can specify certain menus to be displayed at certain times of the week and days. They can have text menu items with prices and all those things. And it supports the concept of promotional menus, which are uploaded through the distributor and the suppliers. And we can now take that data. So unlike in the paper or physical menu world where we don't know when people are actually viewing the menus, when we're displaying these menus, we actually can capture data on the analytics, on the usage and analytics of the QR codes and the menus, and actually capture brand impressions. So we launched this about 120 days ago, thanks to several folks on this call who signed up. And this is where we are today. We have deployed Spot Menus in over 3,000 restaurants and bars, considering that some of these folks are still deep in pandemic, pretty decent results. We have about 9,000 digital menus on the solution. So typically there's at least 2 menus per account, a food menu and a drinks menu. And we've displayed, and I think this is the most interesting statistic, over 8 million menus. So we're now at the point where it took us about 45 days to display 1 million menus, and we're displaying 1 million menus a week now. So roughly every second, we're displaying a digital menu to a consumer on Spot Menus. And what's also interesting is, unprompted by us, is all these thousands of small businesses around the country are going to social media and sharing with their customers and prospects the fact that they're open and they've got Spot Menus here, a digital menu, and they're sharing this on social media across, these are actual posts from Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, and other social media platforms of how they're leveraging the solution to help get consumers to come back to the restaurants in a safe manner. So pretty gratifying to see. And again, thank you very much to all the folks on this call who've signed up for Spot Menus and are using it. And we think we have the start of something really great here that we can build on. So with that, I'm going to now hand it over to Mike and Sarah to facilitate a roundtable discussion. And please don't be shy. We want you guys to participate. So we've been talking a lot. This is the more important part of the session, where we now get some feedback from you guys. So over to you.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks, Rich. And like I said before, it is great to see everyone. If you weren't on at the beginning of this meeting, I mentioned it's like Christmas for me to see all of you on one call. So I'm actually really excited about this. But this is, to Rich's point, this is the interactive portion of the afternoon. Okay, so we truly believe we have the best customers who are leaders in through channel marketing. Look at just the expertise, the experience, the influence of just the people on the call. It's pretty remarkable. So we do want to spend the next 40 minutes. So we want to hear from you, and we want to share your experiences and your peers, better understand the challenges you're facing, the issues that you think about, and ultimately, where is channel marketing going? What is the future of channel marketing? We did this last year. It was a great session, very interactive, but we were also in Chicago. We were all in the same room. So I hope you all will participate, and it'll obviously, with your participation, we can make it pretty effective. As Rich mentioned, I think Sarah's joined us now. Sarah, you with me?
I'm back. Yes. Hi.
All right. Sarah's joined. She is Brand Muscle's head of strategy. Her and I will be co-facilitating this discussion. And at the end of the discussion, what we'll do is share some of the common themes, trends that we're seeing from our perspective across all of our customers' base as a result of COVID. So COVID, let's just start there, right? What a weird year it's been this year, right? I think we've all been blindsided by what happened this year. Right. I think we all, heads are nodding, right? Like we all were impacted by what happened, and there was no way we could predict or plan or be prepared for what happened. And it happened quickly, right? In some cases, marketing tactics that were extremely relative, effective prior to COVID became obsolete post-COVID, right? So we were forced to pivot and think about what are we trying to achieve and how can we support our local channels? And I know it was a challenge for a lot of the folks on this call and the teams that you manage. Rich, okay, you already went to the first slide. So, ultimately what COVID did was change the consumer behavior, right? It changed the consumer experience. Laws changed, in the alcohol and beverage industry, right? I can go now pick up food and take out an alcoholic beverage, right? There's a concept of curbside pickup now that I don't think that concept ever existed before 2020, but it's a normal thing we all talk about. Restaurants closed. Cleanliness has become a really high priority, right? And even touchless has become a theme, right? It's funny. I actually look at the first picture where Scott was speaking, and it makes me feel awkward that we were all standing so closely together, right? And that was the norm. But now I look at that picture and I'm like, wow, I can't believe we're so close together. It seems weird. Anyways, what I want to hear from this group is just, how did your company react to the shifting business environment and the changing consumer behaviors? Who's going to be the first person to sort of help me get this going?
I can.
All right.
This is Kevin. I'll start if no one's going to say anything. So
Thanks,
just
Kevin.
to get the ball rolling. My name is Kevin Kranzler, and I'm in alcohol distribution here in Connecticut. So we're the leader in Connecticut. And I think like everybody, it caught us all by surprise. We're all keeping an eye on the news and kind of seeing how COVID was impacting not just our country but the entire planet. I think it forced all of us to have to react very quickly. I think that given the fact that this is an unprecedented event, there were no right answers. So you're talking amongst yourself, you're talking amongst your colleagues or your industry and peers, even in different industry. But ultimately, I would say for at least for our business, I think it's one of these. Nobody ever wants to go through something as substantive as we're all going through. But I think it was a good reminder of our emergency response plans, of our disaster recovery plans. So from an infrastructure standpoint, in a weird way, it was very valuable to really test our abilities. Like most of you, we immediately went to a remote workforce. And that was important to test our abilities to do that. So I think it challenged a lot of our staff here internally. And as far as just the marketplace, like everybody else, we kind of roll with the punches. April and May were very challenging. I think once we got into summer, and for people in the Northeast, I think it was, I don't want to call it a godsend, but I think it was the right time for something like this to happen, particularly with on-premise. Our restaurants were able to come back a little quicker for two reasons. Number one, because of the weather, and number two, because being in Connecticut, we had the benefit of a lot of folks coming, who were working, commuting into New York City. So we picked up a lot of that business. So that ended up helping us out significantly. But overall, it was, again, you're testing, your company, and it's a challenge. And I kind of think that, it's one of these things that it's something that you never want, but it did help us kind of prove out where we needed to focus our time and attention. We have spent some time, while folks have been out of the office and looking at other projects that we maybe haven't done that we chose to do now while people are out of the office. But now we're really kind of turning our attention. Our high season is October, November, December. So OND, for the alcohol folks, that's a very familiar acronym. That's where our attention is turning now. At this point in Connecticut, we've kind of been stuck in phase 2 of our COVID, plan. Basically, where we stand today is, for on-premise, outdoor occupancy 100%, social distancing, indoors 50% occupancy. So we're stuck at phase 2. Our Governor Lamont in Connecticut has been talking about moving to a phase 3 at some point. That appears to maybe have stalled out at this point right now. I think now that schools have reopened, they're assessing just the landscape here with COVID. And for now, we're holding, decent levels. We are seeing a minor tick up, but Connecticut has been, after we got through really the April-May timeframe, Connecticut has been, I think, one of the top performing states as it relates to kind of low infection rates. So it's been a struggle, but it's something that, our company, our employees we've all worked together. We found a way to make it work. And, knock on wood, business has been pretty good.
Kevin, I saw you asked to be a presenter. Do you want me to make you a presenter as well?
No, I have nothing to present.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I may have clicked something by mistake.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks for sharing, Kevin. That's, it has, we've noticed that in your industry specifically, you guys have had to test those emergency, response procedures more than anyone, I guess.
Anybody else want to share just sort of changes they made to whether they were effective or not effective? Are there things they could have done sooner? Anything like that?
I can. All right, Dave Bizzolato, Ace Hardware. We probably have a very different scenario than probably most experienced. For those that aren't aware, we're 4,600 stores. We are a co-op, so all 2,300 owners of Ace Hardware stores own the company. And we have just being blessed and tremendously fortunate to be deemed essential throughout the country. So our stores not only remained open, but we had people manning the stores, front lines every single day, because their livelihood obviously is most are in that business, as well as trying to get people in the warehouse and whatnot. And the spike in demand was truly staggering. So a 96-year-old business, and just the amount of demand went through the roof. So it really, from our standpoint, allowed us to quickly be nimble to put together things that we always anticipated we wanted to have in our business and turned them on a dime. So for example, we stood up curbside pickup in 10 days. So we went from not having curbside pickup to having it nationwide in 10 days. Also, the online demand was staggering. So we had to make sure that we had to enlarge the plumbing throughout the entire system to be able to absorb that. And then even from a brand muscle standpoint, we had to be able to provide all the marketing that was relevant throughout each stage on the brand muscle platform. So we were able to get up, I want to say it took 2 weeks, but we got up 100 different assets in every type of scenario out there. And we were fortunate enough, we're looking back, and Q2 for us was record breaking. I think we had the largest Q2 than the last 20 years. So really, that has enabled us to really cast a vision moving forward to be able to say, wow, what we were able to do in 2 to 3 weeks was truly incredible. When everybody was aligned, with the right money, the right focus, it really put people into a mindset that anything's possible. So now the amount of projects that have spun up from that, of just enabling better marketing, better solutions for the consumer, all stemmed from that. So we truly felt pain, but it was in a totally different sense. Just almost, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious too, on your e-commerce side, did you see a shift in, consumers versus going to the stores versus a pickup in e-commerce?
Yeah, so our e-commerce business was up 450% in Q2. And we saw a lot of people going online. What we found was, even some of the technology couldn't keep up. There was just so much demand out there, and it was a pandemic. We're currently still living through it, but the urgency wasn't as critical as back then. So yeah, it was. I think from a marketing standpoint, that's what I live every day, and I think it really kind of enabled us, is that with a very truly legacy business, sometimes it's hard to get the evolution of our retailers to do more digital marketing and leave behind some of that traditional print marketing. I'm sure any of you on the call probably experienced some of that. We did it. I think now this is a wake-up call for all of our stores that if you don't adapt, you die. So I think a lot of them are truly embracing digital media, and that's been a big benefit to us.
I would jump in and echo much of what Dave just shared. This is Laura with Bobcat, and we too are very much a legacy business, very much dependent on brick and mortar and the old style. As much as we thought, we were moving our dealers along, we weren't that quick. We didn't stand up curbside pickup in 10 days. That's very impressive. So kudos to you. But we did see our dealers respond and find new ways to service their customers. And certainly with Brand Muscle's help, we were able to get many of our dealers onto digital platforms so much quicker, and utilizing those platforms and those services so much better. They had to contact their customers and keep in touch with them in a different way than they had. We often joke that we're part of that digital transformation driven by COVID here in the office, in our manufacturing business, and of course in that channel network. So we've learned to be a lot less highly produced. We've ventured into digital launches, digital events. We're much more nimble in our approach. So you hate to say recessions and pandemics are good, but certainly they teach us how to be better, and we are certainly taking a lot of those learnings and also sharing those with our dealers and continuing to share those with our employees, that if we don't keep on changing, we'll be left behind. And let's keep that perspective that we learned, and let's continue moving forward with that, because it made us stronger, and certainly much of what we learned helped us through that. So we're excited with what we've learned and where we're at now. And we hope we can keep our dealer body, particularly that works with this group, moving really in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah, Dave, I can attest to the fact that you were really early on curbside pickup. I mean, you were moving in that direction before we even knew that we were in a pandemic. And that was really impressive. I'm not sure how you had that vision so early, but it was super impressive.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, if anyone has a legacy business here, usually you have plans for functionality and integration that is far exceeds where the business is currently at. And, I think we were definitely prepared to capitalize on that.
Yeah, and it's great that you two, both Bobcat and Ace, right, are in an industry that actually is flourishing, right, and finding opportunity in a pandemic. I know not all clients on this call are in that situation, but that is fantastic to hear.
I'm gonna jump in. Hi, Mike. I think that so my name is Wendy Wilgel, and I'm sorry I was a little late to the call. I was experiencing some technical issues, of course. I joined Kevin out of Connecticut here, part of financial services. So we are not seeing the bright side. We're actually living in the deep and dark right now, but making our way through it and learning every day. So I'm a part of Prudential Financial Retirement, and we've really course corrected. When you think about retirement and financial services, we're looking to build and grow revenue. But what we found ourselves doing was helping participants actually take their money out. The CARES Act changed laws so that participants could, in fact, take money out of their retirement plans penalty-free, take loans out, et cetera, under specific provisions depending on what their employer has chosen. So what we found ourselves doing, rather than marketing to increase net flows, was actually to help participants, give them the information that they needed to make informed decisions and actually take money out of their plan. A position we didn't think we'd really be in, and a course correction from the head of a marketing team. I didn't think I'd need to change my plan quite so dramatically. But I think where we, obviously, the silver lining would be, course correction as far as how we operate as a company, but also how our clients are operating and being a little bit more adaptive and accepting of technology. Virtual is the only way to be right now, where we can actually reach a lot more participants virtually versus those one-on-one sessions that we were doing at the employer site. That was no longer an option. However, I think that, in this course correction, and luckily, I think we got a lot of great use out of our Brand Muscle relationship. The market volatility campaigns that we deployed at the local level saved us, hundreds of hours had we not had that scalability. And along with that, hundreds of thousands of dollars in the marketing ecosystem, here at Prudential, that did not need to touch those campaigns at all. They just went out the door at the local level. So it's interesting to hear, you know, the opportunity that this pandemic has created. From a financial services perspective, it's really allowed us to lean into, you know, the noble cause that I think we have of helping millions of Americans retire with dignity, but at the same time understanding the fact that, you know, a lot of our participants have been furloughed or have lost their jobs, and we now need to provide them with the access to the money that they, probably the largest amount of money that they've accumulated, you know, personally, and give them access to that. So completely different world that we're living in right now.
Yeah. Hey, Denny or Kurt, are you guys, anything to add to that at all, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'd co-sign on a lot of what was already shared around the need to get more digital and customer centric. So Denny Ehrman, Nationwide Insurance, and really our customer is the independent agent. And kind of three things we've seen on our end on the pandemic. You know, when a crisis like this happens, and although we've never seen a crisis like this, it seems like every 10 years there's kind of a show-stopping event that makes the world pause and kind of reassess. It really accelerates the winners and losers in our view. And in our point of view in the insurance business, especially with agents, is that the agents that don't adopt digital are going to die. And so how can we empower and enable them to be successful? And I'd say there's been three things that have been successful during the pandemic. First is more around thought leadership. What resources can we give them to better understand customers who might be shopping? So we've done research and built a lot of content for them about better understanding customer behavior, because it's changing quite rapidly and they might not have the resources on their own to kind of see that macro point of view. The second thing we're doing is around, you can get growth from getting new customers, but you can get growth from also cross-selling and maximizing your current book of business. And so we have a program where they can opt into marketing that we do on their behalf to customers that has seen a tremendous uptake over the course of the pandemic, as agents have raised their hands and say, hey, I need more help in this space, and you have the scale to kind of help me. The third one is really around the how, and I want to call it the partnership with Brand Muscle. How do I use digital? I know I need to get more digital, but digital is ethereal, it's nebulous. What does that mean? And so really giving them the tools to leverage digital in their agency. And so we just recently partnered with Brand Muscle on giving agents access to a dashboard similar to the channel partner scorecard that James kind of showed. The same idea of like grading the agent on how much digital they're leveraging in their agency through this dashboard that we've given them through Brand Muscle, that essentially allows them to log in and see how their webpage, which is nationwide.com, is performing, and then gives them a letter grade based on how complete their information is. That gamification, and then also allowing them to kind of see how they stack up against that agent that might be right across the street, we found is an effective motivator for getting them to take action in addition to the business needs. So really those three areas, thought leadership and, you know, enabling cross-selling in the face of difficult growth in our category, and then really kind of the how around digital and giving them the tools that make it easy are kind of the three trends that we're seeing.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's great, Denny.
Yeah, it's Kurt Winter from Allstate. I'll just chime in because I think the last two hit on a lot of great points. So I won't duplicate completely, but I do think that you know, what we really kind of realized is the pandemic is it's kind of created a moment of truth for a lot of companies, and our company being one of those. You know, it's a crisis, and I think companies have the opportunity to build their reputation, or actually create some negatives. And so, I think that initially when it all happened, there was, with our agencies, there was sort of a hesitancy to, just go into paralysis mode. And so we've tried to really provide some more prescriptive guidance on how to operate in this different environment. And one of the ways we did that was just by providing a lot of data. I think someone else brought that up as well. Like what's going on with consumers? How are they thinking differently? And what does that mean in terms of how you should be acting differently? And, for us in our category, we are somewhat lucky that these are products that folks are required to have in property and casualty, but we definitely saw initially a big dip in shopping activity, but then very shortly thereafter, things have started to accelerate rapidly. And I think what's happened is it's caused a lot of folks to reassess so many things in their life, and it's actually created a very good opportunity to connect with our customers. And so we put a big emphasis on let's reach out to our customers, show care and concern, but also help them solve problems. People are concerned about finances. People are looking at all of their assets and how do I think about it differently? And so, our agency force can be problem solvers within that. Someone else brought up the idea of, just having to operate differently. So I totally agree that this has accelerated the idea of digital, and that we need to be, that is your presence in the local community. And in many ways, it's the front door to your business. So if you don't have a good digital presence, you're starting behind the 8 ball. And so we have seen increases in digital presence, and Brand Muscle helps us a great deal with that. And then I'll go back, like I mentioned finances before, but we really, folks, are in different financial situations. One thing that's happening is people are driving a lot less. And so we have a product that's a pay-per-mile auto insurance product. And the take rate on that has skyrocketed. And so that's a way our agents can show up as heroes. I'm going to offer you this pay-per-mile product, which can help you save money. And so it's a way to just change the relationship with our customers. So we've tried to say, how do you use this as an opportunity to, one, better protect your customer and ultimately build your reputation. So it's been a very interesting learning experience for us.
Yeah, that's all great input. I appreciate it. Rich, why don't you go to the next slide? And you all started to hit on my next slide or my next question already, right? It's essentially where are we going from here, right? The pandemic, you guys mentioned it a few times, but it's really forced us to think differently. My question is, what's going to change, or are we going to go back 100% of how we used to support our channels, right? And you're already starting to hit on it, right? Digital, or I forget, I think Denny, you said it best, right? If you don't, you're going to die, right? Like you have to start adopting to it. So, that's obviously one place where I think people are thinking a lot more digital, and, quite frankly, some of the stuff if we have time to share it, the trends we're seeing across all our customers is just that pivot. Right, that instantly happened right at the beginning of COVID. Right, there was this pivot of getting out of traditional, a little bit out of print, and heading over into the digital side. So, what else? What else do we think? What is going to be the long-term, lasting residual effect of COVID? Or do we see other things that we think are going to change to how we support channel marketing?
I'll speak. This is Robert. I'll speak. Mike Sutter from Case Home Lending. I think.
Robert.
Okay. I'm wearing a purple shirt today, but I don't work for Brand Muscle. It just happens to be coincidence. I don't have a logo on there, but I just want to briefly mention about the distributor from a wine and spirits standpoint. We're being challenged to provide and offer services that we've never provided before, right? So I spent a lot of time with Rich and Caroline and a lot of you folks on Brand Muscle when this whole COVID thing happened. I was going to answer the last question by saying the first thing I did was get with the teams, understand what our gaps were, what the demands and requests were from our suppliers and our customers, And I got to tell you, I think we were involved in product development with Brand Muscle from the get-go. We not only looked at what could solve the solution of not being able to get menus out there, but also the need to get menus out there without getting reps out there, right? So we started talking about a lot of different things. We looked at legalities, we got the legal teams involved. We did a lot of those things that we've never done before because there wasn't an ask up until now. So as we're moving forward, one of the things that I always challenge our suppliers to look at us differently, to not look at us as the old school distributor that all we do is deliver and put product on the shelf and wear polo shirts and khakis, and that's all we do. We're being asked to do more. They don't look at us that way. You have a marketing team and a distributor, that's a joke, right? You guys aren't marketing people, you guys are sales folks, focus on that. But within that itself, there are a lot of things that we aren't prepared for. We don't have a solid CRM, for example. So working with Brand Muscle, we haven't talked about this, Rich, but a great opportunity is you're collecting data out there. We have a need for data. We don't do a very good job of collecting the email addresses for our customers. So it's going to be important for us to sit down with our vendors like yourselves, and I consider you more partners than just vendors, and identify what those gaps are, right? Because the same token that a lot of our suppliers don't always look at us from a marketing solution standpoint, even though we're building those capabilities. It's usually transactional, right? We're usually checking the box. You have a digital menu, great. But now we got to expand beyond that, even with your analytics. It's okay, so what value are these things bringing? Because for now, the optics are fine. Just the fact that we offer digital menus and we can show a chart that says in Texas, we're using 1,000 or 1,000,000, that seems to be enough. But it won't be enough in the long term, in the long run, for not only us as a distributor, we need to show the value of those things that we're asking suppliers to invest in. I, as a marketing lead, need to show my distributor or my bosses that there's a value in these partnerships and these things we're investing in. And you yourselves need to find ways to commercialize and monetize the investments you're making by working with your customers and finding ways to do that. So digital is a big piece. I'm waiting for Brand Muscle to call me about the digital asset opportunities, because I always thought that it would start in one of two ways. You start either at the distributor. We have to set up products. Anywhere you buy a product, even if you buy it online, it starts with a distributor. So when you're setting up products, you have to capture the imagery right there. And then you're able to syndicate content across the board, right? But we also need our partners like a Brand Muscle that can help support that, because when you're developing creative, where do you start? You start at Brand Muscle. So there's an opportunity for us to join forces there a little bit better. There's a lot of content service providers out there that are beating us to the punch. And as a distributor, we want to control a lot of that, because the more people that are out there selling content management and curating and creating content, they're going to take us for all it's worth, right? They're going to charge us. I think Landry's is charging $750 per product to be in their digital catalog for a third-party agency that doesn't even do what you do, and doesn't do it very well, because they're more of a all things that fall under agency kind of house. So I think it's about sitting down with your customers and really identifying what we're being asked to do that's different. And again, for the distributor, it's new solutions that we haven't offered ever. And I think all of a sudden there is a credibility there for marketing, or a need, a justification for the distributor to be more involved. And then it's also services like digital asset management. We have about this many suppliers that actually have assets. So Moet Hennessy on there, they have them. There are 95% of our customers that don't have those assets, and they're losing business in e-commerce because they're not able to provide retailers with that content.
Yeah.
I'd love to, since we were already talking distributorship, I'd love to add to that, because I think that was fantastic. So a lot of my sentiments going to echo the other two spirit and wine distributors that spoke.
Hannah, do you want to just introduce yourself real quick?
Yes, so Hannah Conheim from Allied Beverage, and I actually manage specifically to a channel, which is the on-premise channel. And so a lot of our experiences are very similar. So I'm going to really actually speak to the on-premise, which would be anywhere you would consume product on the premise. And I have to go back one moment to behavior, because it's going to lead into future behavior, which is we really figured out we had to assess two types of behavior being a distributor, which was not only end user, which is the consumer, but licensee buyer behavior as well, because it's changing as we speak. So we did a lot of guidance in the beginning, which honestly, because my channel went absolutely dark for 3 months, that guidance fell short, because you had a panic of people were in survival mode and thought this was short term, this is not going to last, and just wanted to open their doors. And now we're finding as people settle in, they're much more willing to hear guidance, and we have to actually help guide the middle buyer to get to the end user. So we're looking and really assessing two types of behaviors. And what we're looking at right now is, and I'm going to specifically speak to the restaurant industry, is addressing two pieces. A tremendous labor shortage that exists pretty much throughout the restaurant industry for numerous reasons. One of them has to do with wearing a mask all day, but there's lots of variables to this. And number two, the social distancing and the want to not interact with other people. So this is where we want to offer services such as what types of POS would limit labor intensive things, such as putting something down that has a drink vessel that's large. And this is where Brand Muscle can help with different ideas and concepts. But two, how to, with again, whether it be QR codes or other ways, limit the interaction as much as possible to understand on the next phase where the behavior is going. So we're really working on what is the next trajectory, because social behavior is actually changing. We see premiumization in our field going up in spirits and going down in wine. So we're really seeing all these different ways of how do we market to the consumer as they're making different choices. And what guidance are we giving now that the middle piece is willing to hear the guidance and not in panic mode?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where we're at right now. And for what's the next step? I don't know if that's a future as much as it's a next segment.
Right.
Mike, if I may, first off, I want to compliment Robert on his point and Hannah on hers, both on the on-premise as well as the importance of content management. There's a lot of things here that I don't want to double back on that people have said, all excellent points. I'm with Moet Hennessy USA. I'm part of a conglomerate called Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, and we represent about 30% of our drinks business is the Tile Groups business, and we're watching our other groups, the jewelry, the fashion, the cosmetics, just a completely different business model right now. To think when you see Louis Vuitton stores boarded up or Dior stores boarded up, that's been our new norm. Our drinks business is healthy, but to all the conversations from our distributor partners here, there's been a tremendous value shift as the on-premise has moved into the off-premise. We're selling less bottles, we're selling more tonnage, and that's a tremendous value mix for our distributor partners as well as the suppliers. 2 points that were made here. One from Hannah, the importance of on-premise and teaching digital to our on-premise partners. This was a completely new space for them. Many of these businesses have been family businesses. It's a people business, and the whole digital platform is new for them. Some didn't even understand, as we work with partners, Facebook, and the importance of Instagram, and the importance of Twitter, just to market their businesses, let alone to promote take home. From a content standpoint, I think there's a true opportunity. And Robert, thank you for bringing it up because it's one of my concerns. And we have a very good working relationship with Brand Muscle. Our distributors have a good working relationship with Brand Muscle. A big shout out to Chloe and Catherine in client services. They're just tremendous supporters of ours. But we work with Brand Muscle. Brand Muscle manages our content. They are gatekeepers to our content with our distributors, and our distributors with our retailers. I think one of the challenges is when we have partners that are coming to us with data pool players that are not focused on our content, that are just marketing our content, and we have a lot of standards and guidance on look, touch, and feel of our brands and how our brands are presented. And with a partner like Brand Muscle, I believe we are able to better gatekeep that than with a third party that we aren't even in contract or do business with, that a retailer or a distributor has provided content for. So I think, Mike, an opportunity for next conversation is really how do we get our arms around relationships that you have with our distributors, with data pool providers. Yep. People like, I'm drawing a blank. Salsify, one, Beverage Me. These are companies that have our content, but are not managing it with the same standards that are we expect from our providers. So I think that's an opportunity. As it was said earlier, the whole pandemic, right, wrong, or indifferent provided, we had to pivot, and we had to make strategic decisions, and we were making those strategic decisions to be better prepared for the future. And that's one of the things that Moët Hennessy USA has done, and our distributors have as well. So,
yeah, thanks, Kyle. So, Rich, how do we want to? Where are we? We're at about 4:15. Just want to make sure we stay on track. I know I've got one more question that I'd love to put in front of the group if we've got time.
Hopefully, Phil, if you don't mind, we're gonna take another question. You might start yours a little late. This is great discussion, though.
Yeah, no, it's totally great. I have a hard stop in 30 minutes, so hopefully we can make it work.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe we can just spend a couple minutes on this. If there's any other input, I think what you provided, actually, it's been very consistent, and even across industries, a lot of what you said is very consistent. But ultimately, not even COVID or not COVID related, what are you being pressured to do within your companies, right? In your roles, what's essentially keeping you up at night? What's the big problem that you're trying to solve?
Sorry.
Go for it, Kevin.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest challenge that I have as a distributor is inventory. I think we've kind of managed, for the most part, how to best kind of work with our staff, work with our customers, work within this pandemic. But the one biggest challenge for us is inventory, because we are starting, as I think people have mentioned, we saw an unprecedented spike in off-premise business. Tremendous volume in the supply chain went through. So, thinking about that from an inventory perspective, and during, we're in the midst of a pandemic as well. So you're talking about a lot of manufacturers instituting all kinds of measures, social distancing, et cetera, plus with the demand we're seeing. So right now, inventory is probably my biggest, what keeps me up, because on the one hand, you want to make sure you have enough goods, for throughput, but on the other hand, you don't want to get stuck with, a year's worth of inventory. So, trying to predict the levels is what is keeping me up, because, as the old saying goes, you can't sell from an empty cart. And, we are seeing, depending on who you speak to as a supplier, some have no problems, some are certainly experiencing problems. So that's my biggest challenge for sure.
Yep. Wendy, what do you have?
I'll keep it real short because I know we're up against time. I would say communications preferences. So, historically, email, snail mail, that tends to be the go-to, but that's not good enough anymore. And we need to be where our participants are. And that could be anywhere from social media to their mobile, apps, et cetera. So it's really making sure that we can communicate the way our customers expect to be communicated. And then that's really what we've been leaning into, and how to integrate all of our capabilities via those channels.
So this is Wayne Thompson from Echo. I think one of the things that we look at as an opportunity moving forward is really partnering up with the right people to identify the innovative tools that we need to establish to really stay ahead of our competitors. For us, we don't have the largest budgets in the industry, but we have the best product, and we really need to make sure that we have the right tools to communicate. We have found through this pandemic that while we're essential, like Dave in a supply chain, and as well as Laura in a manufactured capacity, we're also essential, but keeping people employed, keeping them feeling safe coming into the organization to go to work, to build the products that we needed to get out to market was certainly a challenge. And moving forward, we need to take a look at, even after having a very strong culture and focusing on employees, we need to make sure that we keep that moving forward, that they're always feeling safe, as we're not working 24/7, 7 days a week to keep up with the demand that we have in the marketplace. On the marketing side, we made the switch to digital a couple of years ago with a portion of our budgets going to affiliations, sports affiliations mainly. We are reevaluating that now, especially with what's happened with sports this year and how it's put everything on hold. And I think for the very reasons that we decided digital was the right way to go for our campaigns, we were actually tested this year to see if we could actually do what we said were the benefits of that medium, and that is to be able to pivot on a dime and switch gears on your messaging and everything else. And we've really been forced to do that this year and really convert some of the planned messaging that we had to go out to the market to be more focused along the lines of what the people were dealing with every day. We've switched our messaging, and digital has allowed us that flexibility to switch that messaging and still get it out there and be effective. For us, we make outdoor power equipment, which is commercial landscape equipment, chainsaws, blowers, string trimmers, to take care of your commercial and residential properties. The do-it-yourself spike in demand has been absolutely unbelievable. And so moving forward, we also need to make sure that we have the right messaging to target those individuals, which traditionally have no idea how to use the products, never had any intent to use the products. They were using third-party services, and now they've made a decision to buy their own products, to do their own work, whether it's because of loss of funds for commercial services, or they're just at home and they don't have anything better to do. But then on top of it, they chose for the one product that they wanted to buy more than any other product was a chainsaw, which is one of the most intimidating, dangerous tools you could buy. So our customer service calls have also skyrocketed. And so we've had to find ways to pivot across the organization. And I think, we just keep looking for, as a leader in the market, but more product focused, more engineering focused culture. We don't have the same budgets as some of maybe the more advertising, marketing focused companies, but we've been able to capitalize on innovative ideas and tools to get our message out in the market. And I think if one thing keeps me up at night as a product lead and a marketing lead for our organization is, how do we keep coming up with those innovative tools to keep ourselves in front of everyone else?
Good. All right. Unless there's anyone else, first of all, this is all fantastic input, and we definitely hear you. We hear digital. We hear it. Right.
Okay, Mike. The one thing that I would add is that it's been great to hear how we've helped you guys pivot, because we didn't know what to expect in March. Actually, Wayne and I were together in Cleveland kicking off the implementation for Echo, and just like you said, we weren't focused on individuals. We were having very different conversations about sports. And so to hear, how each of you individually have pivoted, have really focused on the customer. And it's been great to just hear how you guys are leveraging our tools to do that. Thank you so much for sharing today. This has been really great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. All right. So Rich, do we want to shift? Do we want to go to Philip?
I think we should switch to Philip. Please. So he could give him some time to catch up. Thanks everyone for that discussion. That was great. I was taking notes here as best I could, but we have the recording, so that's good. So Philip, I will bring up your deck now. Hopefully you guys can see this.
Yeah, thank you. And you can just go ahead and skip to the next slide. On the phone today, you've got myself, Philip Rather. I've met many of you before, I think last year, along with Esther. my colleague who knows a lot more than I do if we get into any nitty gritty type stuff. So between the two of us, hopefully we can have a robust conversation. First things first, just respect and congrats to all of you guys for what you're having to deal with right now. I mean, the spot menu stuff at Brand Muscle is amazing, and all of the support that you are trying to provide to your channel partners is really, really great. And we're seeing a lot of it. It mirrors a lot of what we're seeing. To answer the very first question that you guys were all posed about, kind of what have you done as a result of COVID, I can just speak to Facebook because I think it's relevant, which is that we've doubled down on the way that we support our small and medium businesses. And that's not just through, 9-figure grants and free advertising credits, but through a rapid reorganization internally to take all of our product teams and to direct them towards what would a small business need? Where are the places where they are currently experiencing exorbitant fees or just things that we can help potentially shave some costs for them? And a lot of that was just making our products a lot simpler. We've been notorious for having fairly difficult products to use over time because there's this page mechanism and so on. But there's some example being automotive. They pay an average car dealer might pay $4,000 a month for a website, right? That is a whole bunch of money if you're not selling as many cars. And so we are thinking, how can we sort of replicate some of that experience on Facebook? So very much thinking about the same thing. I thought also some of the stuff you guys talked about around the changing of marketing into digital to be, more nimble is obviously a good thing. And it made me think just of a step further that to these days, particularly in COVID, marketing and communications were almost the same thing, right? It was so real time that what would you call marketing versus communications? And one of the things that I think that most small businesses and independents particularly don't have access to is enterprise type tools. And it was really great for me to hear you guys talk about how much Brand Muscle has helped you, and a lot of the tools that we're building, which will allow Brand Muscle to build even better tools when it comes to Facebook, are very much in that vein of how do we make communication easier? How do we make it agile and speedy to roll out localized content, budgeted as appropriate, and have a lot of the things that some different tools touch, but Facebook has not necessarily made it easy. So just wanted to give that that update. And the other trend I think that we're seeing is really around, and I was inspired by last year's Brand Muscle when you guys showed me about the text notifications and where you can, the recommendation engine, I guess, that's powering that chatbot. And I just made me think about making it to where our channel partners and local partners are making binary decisions, right? Because the world is not going to a place where managing media is going to become more difficult. It's going to get a lot easier. The machines are already doing that. And the way that we are building our tools to get small businesses to set up is to set them up in the most optimal way to allow that machine learning to do the work. And so a lot of this like test and learn that has historically done by third parties has gone away. And what you really need to manage is mostly this workflow and the experience of that, relatively inexperienced marketer at the local level, making decisions based on good solid data and machine learning and artificial intelligence. So those are some of the premises that we have. I'm actually jumping on another call with a company who did this with Forrester, and it's just some research on what are multi-location businesses doing. And you guys might have read through some of this, but 77% find it challenging. I think that's why we're sitting around here talking. That's why Brand Muscle is in business. That's why I spend every day going, how do I make this less challenging? I didn't need that data to tell me, but it's a good 3/4 of all the respondents said it is very challenging. Less than half have actually defined the localized responsibility for the local and national teams. Seems like you guys might be the progressive ones, which are why you are on this council. But if you were to do this in aggregate, you will find it is a very common problem that the majority of people have not set out a good plan for. In fact, even less than half of them do any coordination at all. So that's one that was kind of shocking to me. And then the last one, and I think this is even more relevant in COVID now, and the number probably, if you polled them today, would be higher, but have you set that as a critical priority for 2021? And it sounds like you guys certainly have. And I would expect this is going to get more and more important as time goes on. One of the things that we saw was the biggest request was, how can I easily get a message out across all my locations? How can I get it to where that is a permissioning for localized messaging because it's different in Austin, Texas versus New York City versus other different places. So that control was the main thing that a lot of companies felt like they were missing. Not to mention having actually access to the assets and the messaging itself, which someone else mentioned as well. Going to the next slide. I want to make sure I save plenty of time for discussion here. A lot of the things that you would expect, we talked about, it's accelerating everything that was already happening. Well, certainly in business, we were moving towards digital. Certainly in business, we were moving towards more coordinated enterprises that are distributed in natures like your own. On the consumer side, we were already seeing a ton of usage of messaging, for instance, right? We paid $19 billion for WhatsApp several years ago, and it may never make a dollar, who knows? But you knew that messaging was kind of the place that everybody was going to be spending all their time. So all of these numbers are up, but there's just more time on their, 76% of people said they were spending more time on their phone, more watching the news, more watching streaming, more on messaging, more on social media. And it goes on and on. So we were sort of imprisoned a little bit, but what we found was that our messaging, and Esther, you may actually know the numbers here, went up something on the tune of 2 to 3 to 4x in time spent. And for a company who makes their own server farms and has some of the biggest infrastructure in the world, we literally had trouble with it. That's how much was going on during that time, not to mention all of the bandwidth that was being used for all the video that was being consumed. So I found it interesting. On the Brand Muscle presentation, you kind of had social ads, and then you had digital display, and then you had digital video. And in some respects, Facebook does a whole bunch of that. We certainly saw our video usage was out the roof. You can go into the next, as well as gaming for sure. So you can go on the next slide. So to sort of just strip this down, I mean, one of the things I probably, if you've heard me speak before, we really talk about is start with people. That's not just the people of consumers, because what is happening as well during this privacy kind of conversation we're having as humanity is around cookies and tracking and data and so on. And the thing about Facebook is we've always tried to give the people control over what's shared and really make it about a human versus a cookie or something like that. And so you're starting with the people and meeting them where they are, right? No matter how much you wanted to resist digital before, everyone on this call has said, it's here, you cannot resist it any longer. And that's where the people are, and they're accelerating faster than your ability to meet them, which means we need to go faster in the business world. But it also means start with the people who you distribute to or provide a brand to or provide media to, and that is your channel partners and your local constituents. And they have needs as well. And what I think is not going to happen is you're not going to see a lot of one-off businesses able to provide the requirements to those local channel partners across different verticals, because not only are we working to solve digital for local, we're also now verticalizing those things. So the car dealer experience is going to be different, as well as the shopper of a car dealer, than someone who's looking for insurance versus someone who goes into a bar and has a drink but maybe caught an ad on their phone before they did so, all of which we can track. So that just sort of leads us to be agile. It sounds like you guys were. And what I wanted to show, and then lead with action. We can go through these. They're pretty straightforward. It's really more about focusing on people doing the right thing and doing it quickly. If you want to go to the next slide. And so one of the things I really think about as we do this work, and if you want to, I always try to, I think it was Bill Gates said something, you can do less in 1 year and more in 10 years than you ever conceive you can, right? And so we always think we can do a whole bunch in a year, and it never works out like that. But you can do a whole bunch over time. And if you want to sort of map the way that the world is going with the products that we're developing, being able to get closer to your local constituent and that digital experience that their customer is having with them, whether that be in a bar or in the setting of an appointment or longer in time virtual showrooms, the reality is if we don't get the dots connected and the ability to share and optimize and be very efficient in these distributed systems that you work on, you're not going to be able to take advantage of augmented reality. And just I guess it was last week, we had what's now called Facebook Connect, but was our F8 developers conference for years that we've had. And we announced that with Luxacata Ray-Ban, we are going to have an AR device next year that's it's basically sunglasses, right? And it'll be our first version, and it remains to be seen if it will be like an iPhone or if it'll be another iteration or two before we get there. But you can imagine walking down the street in New York City and turning and looking at a bar and having a Budweiser sign that says $2 Budweisers come in. And this is not far from our ability to do that with where we're going with augmented reality and virtual reality, but you will never be able to deliver that localized experience if you're not connected to the local businesses and constituents that are there for you. So if you need a long-term crazy goal to get yourself to, it's that. But right now, let's just work on compliance, using digital media that's trackable. And I would leave you with this as well. It's not just about an advertisement. Messenger has so much utility into it. If you guys have ever used Shopify or something like that, I mean, the e-commerce tools that are now available for small businesses just to turn up a website, have a chat bot built into it, that Messenger has really got a ton of utility. And so, let's knock out the ads, let's knock out the video. Every problem is more significant than the one before. Just getting some imagery, that's kind of step one. How do you produce video at scale? Step two, how are you going to control communications and empowering those at scale? And then, of course, how do you create these incredible immersive experiences? But we'll stop there. We should have about 10 to 15 minutes for questions, as much as you guys want.
I'll open up with one, Phil. This might be further out, but you guys have done a lot with Oculus since the acquisition. Do you see that? Is it still a bit early to see any adoption of that? If it was widely adopted, it would certainly make sense for virtual showrooms given what's going on. But anything you can share on those lines?
Yeah, I think Oculus has tended to be very much a gaming platform, and if you look at a lot of things, a lot of the innovation starts in gaming in many respects. They certainly are the first movers. They're the most technical marketers, and they build the most technical products. So one of the things Oculus, I think and we just released to rave reviews, a standalone unit. It's not going to, it doesn't have the ubiquity, nor will it this year, of an Xbox or a PlayStation, which doesn't have the ubiquity of a television or a mobile phone, right? So I think that from a virtual reality perspective, as a consumer product, we've still got some time to go. I mean, we've seen some of the coolest things, virtual test drives and very, very immersive experiences. But, we kind of, if you think about a phone, this is like a bit of a stopgap, right, between computers and a more immersive experience. Virtual reality is a fully immersive experience. And so I think where we'll see us do more there that might have impact is around remote presence. So the idea that you and I, we could be having this with avatars that look just like us in a room that felt like we were there. There's a lot of that. And I think some of the acceleration of us at Facebook having to work from home, and certainly being wanting to be the leaders and not go back, is, when other people need to go back and we don't, we're going to stay home as long as possible. But we've been working on remote presence for a while. I think that starts to bleed into work where, right now I've got a portal on my desk here so I can use my laptop. I've got my portal. It's got voice activation, but longer term, we're realizing, what about that whiteboard scenario? Like that, you can't replace physical presence for some of these creative things. And I think you'll see Oculus much more that way, where immersive is where you're going, versus AR, which is like, this is past the stopgap of the phone. If you look at some of I just think phones, I don't know if you've got carpal tunnel in your finger or you're compulsively checking it. I mean, we all are on it too much, but I think it's a form factor that AR can kind of solve for longer term. And the biggest implication of that is localization of the experience.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Sure.
I know we have lost a few individuals. We've got a few left. Wendy, Kevin, Robert, Dave, thanks for staying on. We really appreciate it. Any other questions amongst the group for Philip, or if not, we'll get this wrapped up.
Well, great. It was great to see all of you again. And Mike and team, we love working with y'all. You can roll up any questions. We work directly with some of the insurance companies on here. We're solving for some of the beverage plus retail with some of our technology and measurement solutions. So always love to hear the good stuff you're doing. And as we roll things out, we certainly look for alpha partners who want to kind of be the leaders and show what's the right way to do this and be inspiring for their peers.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Phil. Thanks for joining us again. Really appreciate it.
You got it. Have a good one.
Take care.
Bye.
All right. So like I said, thanks everyone who stayed on. Denny, I see you're on as well. So thank you all. So first of all, like Scott said in the beginning, we hope you found this useful. It's a little more, as you can tell, it's a little bit more challenging. And we wish we could have done it face to face. But we still wanted to make sure that we engaged and interacted with all of you. So thank you for making the time. We are going to establish a LinkedIn group for this group that we can communicate through. So we establish a network with this group. We will share the presentation today within that LinkedIn group. Within the next day or two, you'll see a survey that we're going to send out. Please, it's 10 quick questions. So please fill it out. It helps us so that we can make this even better years to come. And then lastly, Rich mentioned this before, state and local marketing. If you're not doing it, we'd love to get you involved in it and develop out a personalized analysis for you. So if you have any questions about that or want to get involved, please email Lori or emails at the below slide. Like I said, thank you again for making the time. From Brand Muscle, we really appreciate it. So thank you and take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. For now.
Thank you.